very good evening to all the aspirants. My name is Sumeet and today as usual we'll start a session on current affairs. We've completed June, July and August months current affairs. Now time has come to take up the first week of September, right? So let us discuss all the topics from purely the government exams perspective and dissect each and every information present in that topic. So let us deep dive into the subject. The first incident or the first topic is about the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Recently, the Prime Minister of our country, Mr. Narendra Modi, he visited the event of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which was held in the Chinese city of Tianjin. It was held in the Chinese city of Tianjin. This city was the host of this Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Now, since we are talking about Shanghai Cooperation Organization, let us try to understand its history a bit. Now, this organization was formed in the year 1996. It was formed in the year 1996, and during that time it was called as Shanghai 5. Shanghai 6, sorry. It was called as Shanghai 6 because this Shanghai 6 consisted of 6 members. The one is China, the other one is Russia, then comes Kazakhstan, then after that Kyrgyzstan, and then after that comes Tajikistan. So these were the original founding members of Shanghai 6, or Shanghai as we call it, Shanghai 6, right? So these were the people who were a part of this earlier group which was formed in the year 1996. Then again this Shanghai 6 was again regrouped, was again renamed or rechristened to Shanghai Cooperation Organization again in the year 2001. And the headquarters of this Shanghai Cooperation was shifted and present to Beijing, China. So these are the historical facts when it comes to Shanghai Cooperation Organization. What you'll have to keep in your mind is that since we've understood what the history of Shanghai Cooperation Organization is, let us look at its purpose. The sole purpose of establishing this organization is that it is actually an intergovernmental regional cooperative organization where all the members of this organization, they cooperate on matters related to politics, economy and security. And presently there are 10 members. There are 10 members to this organization. Which are they? They are China, of course, China, Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, India, Pakistan, Iran, Belarus. These are the present 10 members which are a part of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Then apart from that, there are 2 other countries. The 2 other countries like Afghanistan and Mongolia, who have been awarded the status of being the observers. These 2 countries are the observers of this present organization. Then there are also some partner countries. The partner countries of this organization are Turkey, Sri Lanka, Nepal and the rest, right, etc. There are some other countries as well. The list is very much exhaustive, right? So I'm just taking some of the important countries' name. So this is with respect to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Now this year's event, however, was a very huge event. Why is that? That is because as we all know, President Trump has announced huge tariffs on many countries, right? And India is one among those countries which is facing a huge setback with those tariffs. Now, before this Shanghai Cooperation Summit and before the imposition of tariffs from America, India was somewhat, India was a very good friend of USA. But however, with these sanctions, with these tariffs, on India. Now India has slowly shifted from USA to a group where China and Russia are dominant. So what does this say? This incident of Shanghai Cooperation is of utmost importance because of Trump tariffs. Now this Shanghai Cooperation Organization, if you look into the video clips that have emerged from this particular incident, they reveal a symbolic fact. What are they trying to convey? The important fact is that the old powers of Russia, India and China are now recently forming a symbolic grouping which is totally against the domination of Trumpian America. USA, Trumpian America. This combination of Russia, India and China, this is standing up to all the economic sanctions and tariffs which the country of USA is imposing arbitrarily on the entire globe. And that is why this year's SCO summit is very much symbolic. This symbolism shows a shift of India's foreign policy from being pro-USA to slowly moving towards Asia. Now, this is the important key point which you'll have to understand, right? So now, since everything is understood about this topic, let us go to the next topic. The next topic is about India-China ties, right? The Prime Minister of our country, he recently visited China, and since he has visited China, let us now draw our attention towards the ties between India and China as well. Now, please understand, the ties between India and China were guided by a principle called as Panchashila. Panchashila. Now, this principle states that it was signed between the countries of India and China in the year 1954. Now, according to this principle has some 5 important points which you'll have to keep in your mind. The first one is non-aggression. The second point is non-interference. The third one is sovereignty and internal security. The fourth point is peaceful coexistence, and the last point is mutual respect. These are the 5 points which form the basis of this Panchashila agreement, which means, let us dissect each point. When I use the word non-aggression, you'll have to keep in your mind that both the countries will not attack each other. They will not show aggression against each other. This is the first important point when it comes to the Panchashila principle. The second point says that there will be non-interference in internal matters of those respective countries. If there is any internal matter which is going on in India, then under this principle, the Chinese government will not interfere in India, and the same stands for the Indian government as well, which will not interfere in the internal matters of China. The third is about the sovereignty and the interest, self-interest, the sovereignty of those nations. Say, for example, the sovereignty of India will not be transgressed by the country of China, and likewise, Indian government will not transgress the sovereignty of China as well. So the next point is about peaceful coexistence. Both India and China are rising powers in today's world. Now, this rising powers, they are bound to create some conflicts. But according to this principle, even if there are some conflicts, those conflicts will be resolved peacefully. And in that peaceful resolution, they will find a mutual coexistence. Along with the coexistence, what they will do is that they will mutually respect each other's point of view, respect each other's existence. These are the 5 principles which form the basis of Panchashila agreement that was signed between India and China in the year 1954. But you'll have to keep in your mind that in the year 1961, despite having such an agreement in the year 1961, China attacked India and it captured some territories of India, which was again a transgression of this agreement which was signed in the year 1954. Now let us fast forward few decades. Now during the COVID times, during the lockdown, during the time when COVID-19 pandemic had captured the health and imagination of entire globe. In the year 2020, in the month of April, China, the country of China, what did it do? It ventured into the line of actual control. It captured some parts of Galwan Valley, which are presently the territory of India. And this happened in the year 2020, April. Right? So this was the cause of conflict between India and China. And due to this conflict, a lot of underpinnings were signed, and those were, there was an economic fallout. India stopped all the imports coming from China. India had also stopped FDIs coming to India. India had also suspended all kinds of talks with China, and along with that, there were no more intergovernmental visits between India and China due to this 2020 Galwan clash, what we call as Galwan clash. Now fast forward 4 years, in the month of October 2024, both the governments sat together and they resolved this issue of Galwan clash in the year 2024. And due to this October 2024 meeting, the result was that slowly the relationship between China and India were improving, slowly, step by step. And in order, the culmination of these efforts resulted in recent Prime Minister Modi's visit to China. That you'll have to keep in your mind. Now after this, October 2024 agreement between India and China, slowly the economic sanctions which were applied by both the sides, both India and China, slowly reduced. Now recently in the year 2025, specifically in the month of June, July and August, the government of India has relaxed some rules with respect to China. Say for example, they have kick-started trade. They have kick-started the trade which will take place between India and China, specifically in the place called as Shipkila, which is present in the state of Himachal Pradesh. From that Shipkila pass, the trade will resume, which was stopped after 2020 Galwan clash. The second point what you'll have to keep in your mind is that the direct flights which were stopped between India and China have now resumed. Direct flights between India and China are resumed. Point number 2. Point number 3, what you'll have to keep in your mind is that China has now agreed to sell boring machines and critical energy material back to India. Is that understood? But however, there are some more restrictions which you'll have to keep in your mind. Restriction with respect to foreign direct investment coming from the country of China, that is still not allowed. Government is still thinking whether to allow this FDI inflow from China to India, right? They are still debating, and still there is no firm position which Indian government has reported in the press. Now still it is in the debating stage. So still we have not opened our FDI market for Chinese investment. That you'll have to keep in mind. Apart from this, what you'll have to understand is that India should, it is important, given that we have lost a considerable amount of exports due to US tariffs. India will have to keep on diversifying its export market as well. And in search of this diversification, it is slowly opening up its market to the Chinese imports and exports. Now, since it is slowly opening up these all avenues for the Chinese, it is to be seen that India will not negotiate with China from a weaker position. India will have to talk to China when it comes to border very strictly, whereas when it comes to trade, India should trade with China keeping in mind its own interest. That is to be seen in the upcoming moves which the government of India tries to inculcate. Now, since everything is clear about this topic, let us go to the next topic. The next topic is about the impact of GST revamp. Recently, I hope everyone is aware, even in my last classes also, I've discussed about this GST revamp. All the 5 rates have been now reduced into effectively 2 rates. One is the standard rate, which is 18%. then there is a merit rate which is 5%, then there is another special demerit rate which is called as which is considered to be 40%. Now we know that there are a lot of good points about these GST rates that have been implemented in India. But since we are only aware of the good point, let us also talk about the negative impact or the fallout of these GST revamp. What you'll have to keep in your mind is that point number one. Now please understand this GST is a part of a tax pool which will be collected by the central government, and from this tax pool, as per the recent finance commission, the 15th finance commission, as per the 15th finance commission, say for example, if the tax collection is 100 rupees, the center earns 59 rupees, and the rest 41 rupees as per the 15th finance commission's recommendation, the states will earn rupees 41 rupees, and this 41 rupees will be divided among 28 states and 8 union territories. Now don't you think, when it comes to financial resources, the center has much more higher resources, financial resources, when compared to the states and union territories? So what I mean to say is that this GST revamp, the impact of this GST revamp is unequal among the state and the center. In this unequal impact, the state are supposed to be on the losing side, because they will be losing a huge chunk of revenue coming from the GST, coming from the reduced GST revenue. And on top of that, the compensation cess which were implemented to compensate the loss of revenue for states, for states have been stopped. Again, this would be a double body blow for the states. First of all, since the reduction of GST will result in the reduction of the tax pool coming to the states. That is point number one. Point number two, the compensation cess which was implemented to compensate the loss of revenue of states has been discontinued, and this will again lead to the losing of revenue to the states. Apart from that, doubling up the challenges which the states are facing, what you'll have to keep in your mind is that the states are at the forefront. Of implementing social welfare schemes. Now, if the states do not have any money in their kitty to implement social welfare schemes or development schemes, do you really think there will be a development in India? Right? That is the point which is debatable. But however, many experts and economists have pointed out to the fact that this GST revamp, even though it has its own merits, there are some demerits linked to this GST revamp, and that demerits is unevenly impacting the states. The states would be a major loser when it comes to the tax revenue point of view. That is the major drawback when it comes to the GST. This point is very much important, which you'll have to keep in your mind. Now, since everything is clear about this topic, let us go to the next topic. Recently, the government of India, the Prime Minister, in the recently held India Semicon 2025, there is an event called as India Semicon 2025. In this event, the Prime Minister Modi unveiled the first indigenously developed semiconductor chip. PM Modi unveiled semiconductor chip, semiconductor processor. It's a 32-bit processor, and it is named as Vikram 3201 chip. Right? The special point about this chip is that it has been entirely indigenously developed. Is that understood? Indigenously developed. When I use the word indigenously developed, what you'll have to understand is that it has been developed entirely by India. India specifically, Indians have contributed it towards its development, meaning there is no foreign intervention in the development of this processor. Now, what are the uses of this processor? The uses of this processor are that it can be used in defense purposes, defense, aviation, space, and medtech applications, and many other applications, and many such applications. Now, what is the benefit of this 32-bit processor, Vikram 32-bit processor? The most important benefit is that we will reduce our dependence on foreign. We will reduce our dependence on foreign materials, on foreign imports when it comes to semiconductors, and this will also improve the development and research when it comes to semiconductors. Today we are developing a 32-bit processor. Again, maybe in the future we might also, this particular achievement might inspire us to develop a 64-bit processor which has much more higher capacity. That you'll have to keep in your mind, right? We are not only reducing the foreign imports, but also what we are doing is that we are inspiring a generation to develop a 64-bit processor. Now, what another point you will have to keep in your mind is that this project has been implemented by ISRO's semiconductor laboratory, which is located in Mohali in Haryana, right? Is that clear? So this is the place where this 32-bit semiconductor was developed. Since everything is clear about this topic, now let us go to the next topic. The next topic is about Majorana particles. Now you'll have to understand that these Majorana particles are also called as quasi-particles. Now when I use this quasi-particle word, what you'll have to understand is that these particles, they are not readily visible when you observe the matter, right? When you observe any matter through a microscope, you'll find protons, neutrons and electrons, right? They are always available in that setup. But however, quasi-particles like, say for example, Majorana particles, these are not readily available or readily visible when you look into that matter. So hence, that is why we use the word quasi-particle. Quasi as in impartial particles, as in they are not readily visible through the microscope. So the question will arise that if they are not visible during the normal times, then when will they be visible? Yes, they will be visible only during some special states of a material. Say for example, this Majorana, let us talk about Majorana. This Majorana particle is visible only in super semiconductors. These are available, and specifically they are observed at specifically lower temperatures. Now, why are we talking about these Majorana particles? What are the features of these Majorana particles? These Majorana particles, you'll have to understand that they do not carry any charge, unlike proton and electron. Say for example, electron is negatively charged and proton is positively charged. Whereas these Majorana particles, they are neutral, as in they do not carry any charge with themselves. That you'll have to keep in your mind. Then the other feature of this Majorana particle is that they do not annihilate themselves. They do not destroy themselves when they are exposed to antimatter, which means they do not have any antimatter material. They are matter as well as antimatter. They are not self-destructible. That you'll have to keep in your mind. Now, these are some of the most important features features of this Majorana particles. Now, why should we study? What is the use of this Majorana particle? That should be your question. Now, you'll have to keep in your mind that these Majorana particles are important building blocks of quantum computing. Quantum computing. This you'll have to keep in your mind. Is that understood? Quantum computing. These are the building blocks. Now, since we are moving towards building a quantum computers, you'll have to understand that there are many challenges which many scientists have faced when constructing a quantum computer. And one among those important challenges, decoherence, material decoherence. Decoherence, as in these computers are not stable. Why? Because the materials used in them are unstable, and that is why these quantum computers are not stable yet. And in order to achieve this stability, the scientists are now looking at Majorana particles. Why? Because these Majorana particles provide a huge amount of stability. They will provide this stability that will in turn help in the construction of quantum computers. That will have to keep in mind. Now, this is a recent development when it comes to science and technology. And I think this year's UPSC question had asked a question on Majorana particles as well. Right? So I hope everything is clear about this topic. Let us go to the next topic. The next topic is about self-respect movement. Self-respect movement. Now this year we are celebrating this movement's 100th anniversary. We are celebrating this year the 100th anniversary of self-respect movement. Self-respect movement. This movement was started in the year 1925. This movement was started in the year 1925, and this movement was started by a great social reformer called as E.V. Ramasamy Nakiyar. E.V. Ramasamy Nakiyar. This was a gentleman who started this movement. Now, what is the importance of this movement? Please understand, this self-respect movement is a social reform movement. It is a social reform movement, and this movement was inspired by the ideals of Jyotiba Phule and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Now, what are the important points about this movement? This social reform movement was related to abolition of caste. Abolition of castes, and to withdraw the domination of Brahmins. And this movement also focused on woman emancipation. They also focused on education for all. So these are the important points around which this self-respect movement was revolving. Now, in order to implement all these ideals, what this movement started was that slowly intercaste marriages were promoted. Along with that, marriages were carried out without the presence of priest and rituals. Marriage was carried on without the presence of priest and rituals. Now, why are they doing this? They are doing this in order to promote intercaste marriages as well as reduce the dominance of Brahmins in the society. And they are also supported widow remarriage. Along with that, they also supported the employment of women, and they also opposed Hindu rituals. So these are some of the important points with respect to self-respect movement. You'll have to keep in mind. Now, this movement was supported by the Justice Party, which was later called as Dravidar Kalagam. Dravida. These are the important points which you'll have to keep in your mind. I hope everything is clear about this movement. Let us go to the next topic. The next topic is about the recently announced Ramon Magsaysay Awards, right? So this year the Ramon Magsaysay Awards have been announced, and it is a matter of pride that an Indian firm called as Educate Girls has won this year's Ramon Magsaysay 2025 prize, and this is the first time an organization of Indian origin, or an organization of India has won that. Now, what this NGO focuses on? This NGO focuses on bringing back girls, bringing back the girls who have stopped going to the school. This is the purpose of this particular NGO, and its work in this field has been recognized by Ramon Magsaysay Award, and this year it has been awarded. Now, apart from that, what is the motto of this Educate Girls NGO? The motto of this is one girl at a time. One girl at a time. This is the motto of this NGO, and this NGO was founded in the year 2007 by an activist called as Shafina Hussain. Shafina Hussain founded this Educated Girls NGO in the year. What this Educate Girls NGO does is that it tries to bring back the girls back to the school, so that those girls who have left the school due to many reasons like poverty, hunger, and employment issues, all those girls who have discontinued their education, they will be brought back to the school and made them educate. That is what the aim of this Educate Girls NGO is. And in order to honor its achievement and its service, this year's Magsaysay Award has been given to this Educate Girls NGO, and this is the first Indian organization to win this award. These are the points you'll have to keep in your mind. So since you've understood what this award is, let us now try to understand what this award actually is. This Ramon Magsaysay Award is also called as Nobel Prize of Asia. Nobel Prize of Asia. This award was first instituted in the year 1957 in the memory of the President of Philippines, Mr. Ramon Magsaysay. And this award is every year it is given by a foundation called as Rockefeller Brothers Fund. This is the fund which gives out this award, Rockefeller Brothers Fund. And apart from that, what you'll have to keep in your mind is that the first winner of this award was Mr. Vinoba Bhave, the great Vinoba Bhave, who worked towards the emancipation of tribal and who worked towards the eradication of leprosy in India. Vinoba Bhave. Vinoba Bhave was also associated with the Bhudan movement. That you'll have to keep in your mind. And he was awarded the first Ramon Magsaysay Award in the year 1958. Is that understood? So these are some of the important events surrounding the Ramon Magsaysay Award. Right? I hope everything is clear about this subject. Now, since this brings to the end of our session, thank you so much for being a part of this session. Thank you so much for joining Classic Education.